As Dante watched, the illuminated Justinian I erupted into a hymn in which he said, "Hosanna, holy God of hosts, who highly illuminates your brilliance on the blessed signals of these realms." He and the other Mercurian souls swiftly moved away from Dante, becoming veiled in light. This action confused the great Florentine poet, who began trying to get the courage to ask Beatrice to explain to him his confusion. Farther failing to even say her name and bowing his head, he realized that Beatrice was smiling at him, having sensed his confusion. Beatrice told Dante that using her infallible calculation, she doubted he understood what Justinian I had meant by saying that a just vengeance was susceptible to just vengeance. Adam had disobeyed and was banished from the earthly paradise, being stripped of his and their eternal nobility with the Father and his angels. Adam's actions condemned his future descendants to death and separation from the Father. It became the intention of the pious man to reach spiritual maturity and reunify with the Father. However, due to human limitations, he could not do this without mediation. Through the Noahide laws, or the 7 laws of Noah, were the basis for pursuing righteousness established. However, these were inferior and fell short. An imperfect mediation manifested through the Father's 613 commandments of Torah, which were given by the Father through Moses, his great prophet, and became the Levitical law. In the Levitical law, atonement was accomplished through the blood of the sacrificial offering, which would only maintain the divide between the Father and man. While it is true that the Father could redeem humanity to its initial fullness through any means, it would have to be through eternal love, justice, and mercy. The burden of sin was upon man until, through the eternal love of the Father, Christ arrived in the first advent and illuminated the earth in his ministry, both private and public. This was done through the pre-incarnate Christ abandoning heaven for a time and taking on human flesh in the womb of St. Mary. Through this and his death, Christ allowed for those descended of Adam to be able to reunify with the Father in truth and life. By doing so, Christ allowed man to come into eternal paradise. Through the crucifixion of Christ was him suffering the just punishment upon humanity for their sinful nature. It was also undeserved of him. At his death, the earth showed open, revealing the resurrected bodies of certain saints, which temporarily walked through the streets of Jerusalem before disappearing on Resurrection Sunday. Simultaneously, heaven was shaken open at his death, revealing that his presence was now with man, as attested to by the tearing of the Paracot, the temple veil. Although this one death satisfied both the Father and the Orthodox Jews of Christ's day, it was a just vengeance against Adam's transgression in the garden. Christ was rejected by the pilgrims and populace of the holy city, though this was prophesied to happen as he had to be condemned and suffer death for the sins of man in accordance with the Father's will. This singular particularly noble act in the history of earth displayed the magnificent justice and mercy of the Father. It is out of this same vein of fulfilling the Father's will, and for their rejection of Christ, that Jerusalem had to suffer a just vengeance. This just vengeance was done through Titus fulfilling Christ's prophecy of the temple being destroyed. The temple was temporary, just like the elements of earth, air, fire, and water were and are. These components in temporal creation can be formed anywhere in nature, along with every plant and animal. As discussed earlier, the human soul and body and the animal soul and body were both created. While the animal soul and body were created and became mortal, the soul of mortal man was created to be immortal. The immortal soul of man stands as evidence that our souls are divinely breathed into us. Our souls being divinely breathed into us, we humans desire to be eternally with the Blessed and Holy Trinity more than anything. The elements, plants, animals, and humans of temporal creation have always been and will be perpetual as long as the universe exists. What he created to be truly perpetual were the angels and all the heavens, along with the stars.